Hello everybody, we have a new game with the white pieces against Vikmik 1670. We open up with e4, he responds with e5, we go for the bishop's opening. He goes bishop c5, copying us, threatening a little pressure on the f2 pawn on the dark square diagonal. We're going to continue our development with knight c3, controlling the center. I don't know why they play moves like this, but he plays h6. This doesn't threaten anything. Drawback is it's not a developing move, and therefore not a very good move. I'm just going to continue simply with d3, opening my bishop's diagonal, solidifying my center. And now I can go f4. Okay, so he goes back to playing kind of normal. Knight c6. What does this threaten? It controls the center. Drawback? No real drawback, just a nice developing move. So normally in this exact position, without the inclusion of these two pawn moves, I would go queen g4. But with these two pawn moves, if I go queen g4 and he goes g5, which he otherwise would not have, and I go either h4 or f4, he can go d5 hitting my queen. And so this inclusion does actually change things. Weird. But that also might change things now, whereas before this might not have worked. It might be a little stronger now because the light squares are weaker. But in any case, I don't want to mess around. I'm just going to go f4. This check is met with this pawn push. This capture is met with this recapture. Okay, so black goes d6. What does this threaten? It solidifies his pawn chain and opens up his light square bishop. The drawback, he didn't take my pawn. So now I have the option of pushing past him, which I'm going to do. You could also just develop a knight, but then he can take you, which is, perfectly fine and playable. But as you've seen in my other videos, I very much like to go f5 and shut out his bishop's diagonal, and so it makes it very passive. He plays knight f6. What does this threaten? Nothing. It's a developing move, but it's not too effective. But where else can you really put the knight? So he's ready to castle, and he just has this weird move included. Now we just develop normally. We bring out our knight, both our knights, our bishop. We have the center. The only thing is this f5 pawn that may look a little weird to you guys, but it's a huge asset for us. It's an extra attacker should he castle short, and if he doesn't, it gains extra space deep in his territory, and it stops his bishop. So he goes bishop d7. What does this threaten? Nothing. It's just the only square available. It's a very, passive move. And now the turn goes back to us, and we can do what we like. Awesome. We can kind of go for this, which looks very nice, especially if he's castled. But right now this hangs the pawn. Which means we'll probably be castling this way. In light of that, I mean, you can always maybe just go h3, g4, but I'm going to play with the pieces. I'm going to go queen here. Why? Well, one, it gets the queen out of the way so I can go long castle. And where else could the queen have gone? If it went here, it would have blocked the diagonal. So this makes the most sense. Also, the queen sets up this, which is a trade and blocks this diagonal, which is where all of his pressure is. So black puts his queen here. What does this threaten? Nothing. It looks like he just wants to castle queenside. That seems to be the plan. I can live with that. I'm going to continue with my development by putting my bishop here. And now he doesn't have pressure. I'm challenging his bishop, and all of my minor pieces are out. My queen's in a good spot. I'm ready to castle either way. So these are, okay, so he takes, nothing to think about. We have to take. Maybe he hits our queen, but that doesn't look like a very good move other than a one move threat, because I'm just going to move my queen and your knight is misplaced at the end of it all. because I'm just going to kick it, and this h3 tempo kick is going to let us play g4 for free. Okay, so where do we want our queen? Here or here? Here, this, it's still fine for me. And maybe here sets up some weird discovery. If I go here, I maintain the dark squares because I don't have a dark square bishop, which is nice. Okay. Discoveries or dark square bishop replacement. Discoveries is kind of like a joke. Not a joke, like it's too tricky. Like it's a trick line. It's not anything else other than hoping he falls for it. So he jumps his knight, and what does this threaten? Threatens a trade of knights, it seems. Drawback, moving the same piece twice, not an actual threat. I can ignore it. I can just castle long. I can take it. If he recaptures, it's hitting my knight. I jump my knight in and counter tempo his queen. Maybe he'll give me this check, but then I would kick it. He has to move it again. But then he would hang this. So now if I take this, and hit the queen, and let's say he goes back to defend the pawn, maybe I have like queen b4, which hits 2 pawns at once, and I don't have to worry about jumps because it doesn't actually hit anything. I mean, this jump, it hits some pawns, but I'll be in his position by then. Alternatively, I can just kick the knight first, but then when I jump in here, he'll have his knight here. Okay, so we'll just take it, and we'll go down the other line. So now we hit the queen with a tempo. His knight's just hanging in limbo. It looks super ugly. He does give me this check. I don't see a drawback. I don't see a drawback with this. He can try to get in here, but if I castle, his queen doesn't belong there. So now he does go back here defending this. His knight actually can't go here because this knight covers it, which I forgot about. So maybe I spend a turn kicking it first. And then if he goes back, if I go queen here now, oh, I see, the bishop's blocking. I didn't notice that. It's not too big of a threat actually, so that's not the best move. This even looks like a much more active square. What do we want to do? We could castle. If he ever kicks our knight, I mean, I'm gonna go for the most active looking move in the position, which is queen f4. This threatens the knight and prepares secretly f6. Of course, he's... Oh, I thought he was going to go back to f6. He went back here, which allows f6, but opens his bishop. What does this threaten? Threatens a trade of pieces. I don't really care about that bishop per se. I could move it back, though, if I want. I could also play f6. I could also castle. I'm in a long castle. That way, if he takes my bishop and I recapture, I already have an instant threat on the pawn. And now that his queen is back here, he can't castle long because his queen's in the way. He takes, we take because we have to, but our recapture comes with a threat. So c5 defends the threat, but the drawback is it weakens the dark squares that it pushed past. Can we take advantage? Yes, this square, which is one of the drawbacks, is hanging. If we take it, can he move his bishop with a check? No. Let's say he takes a pawn, we take a queen. That doesn't work for him. So this pawn looks free. So we're going to take that, and that pawn is the, pillar of strength, the foundation for this pawn chain. So now that fell, the whole pawn chain is going to collapse, and that's going to be game. He still hasn't castled. He can't castle queenside, and now he can't even castle kingside. f6 still in the air, just to ruin his pawn structure. Even if you don't take that pawn back, which you could, but even if you couldn't, you can also get a rook here first, so you can put even more pressure. And you can see how this f pawn really messes him up, because if it was back here and he can get his bishop here, you know, a few moves ago, his position is a lot better than what it is now. He moves his rook here. What does this threaten? Nothing. It just defends the pawn. Very passive. It also defends this square from knight checks and so forth. We do have this check into here. A little weird. But I don't want to play around with that because now I have no time again. So let's just go f6. It opens up his bishop, but I mean, I don't think he has time for that right now. If he takes with the pawn, this would be checkmate, but he has to sack the queen. He can't take with the queen because that hangs the queen. So he pushes past. Now we have this square. It looks a little troublesome. Also, this check forces this. What can I do there? I mean, that's also fancy. I don't want his light bishop to get active, though. It's definitely going to go like here. I'm definitely missing stuff. Whatever. I'm just going to throw my knight in here. Not because I see the follow-up. I mean, it obviously attacks the rook, which he's going to move, but it looks very, very problematic because he can't castle either way. He can't get rid of it because he only has a light square bishop. So this thing is definitely worth a rook. The thing is, I'm out of time, and this isn't like, it ruins his position completely. So I'm definitely like, it's over. But it's not like a checkmating thing, so I might run out of time. So he moves this. Fine. I don't know, let's just line this up because I can't think right now. Maybe just push this or something. Maybe go here and set up discovery. So if I go here and he gets out of the way and I take it anyway and he takes me, that's not a thing. If he ever tries to activate the bishop, I mean, I'm up a pawn, I could trade queens, but here. Yeah, so here, I don't want a queen trade. I guess I'll go back here. He's super tangled. He can't move. You know what I mean? Like, he doesn't have legal moves with his pieces. But okay, so he does move the bishop, offering the queen trade and blocking this line, hitting this pawn. A lot of things happening here. I'm running out of time. That's the worst thing, dude. I'm not gonna queen trade. I know I'm low on time, but I don't care. Although now he gets a pawn. Maybe I should have just queen traded. Yeah, now his bishop's all active. I should have queen traded, but I was hoping to find some cool checkmating stuff, but it's not here. It's just the position isn't what it needs to be. Oh, okay. He doesn't take it. He hits my queen. Where'd that come from? Oh, from here. So that weakens these two squares. It threatens my queen. This square is available. So if he moves his bishop now, I'll have discoveries. Like this one. So now it's not recommended. So now my pawn's not hanging. Not sure why he attacked my queen and gave me, like, I don't know, more holes. And now this guy can't be challenged by a pawn. Although it couldn't before. Now actually this hits the rook. If he takes, I take the bishop. Check. He has to move his king over. Push the pawn. That looks good. So he pushes the pawn. I don't really care. And if I go here and he moves his rook, where's my knight going next? Yeah, if he doesn't take the rook, I don't see a point. I'm going to put this back here and just block everything. I think it might be wiser. I wish this pawn wasn't here, but it is. So there's that. I'm going to temporarily use this and close down the light squares while he can't take it because of the pin. That way, once I get this pawn here, I can restrict him. He'll probably try to open the H file because that's his only play. And then I'll just play on it and try to get my rook there. I'll trade a pair of rooks because he's all like stuck. He put his rook here, so I'm guessing he wants to trade. He castles. No way. Okay, I'm going to open the H file then. Forget that plan of blocking out his bishop. This is kind of insane. I mean, it unpins the bishop, which undoubles my pawns, gives me a passer, a protected passer. He hits my queen. I'm going to move my queen into his king side. And now this is completely deadly with two rooks here. And this pawn avoiding any evacuation. So there's checkmates on the back rank because of this f6 pawn. But I have 30 seconds, so... Okay, let me wake up and see. Okay. We take, which supports this. Which he probably overlooked because he thought he was going to do this. If I go here, he can take this one, so we don't want that. If I go here and he and passants, okay, so I don't need to touch any of that. I just need to checkmate him. That's a rook. Thank you for making my conversion much easier than it needed to be. Castling was his giant mistake. I want you guys to understand and feel ahead of time, that's a queen, that castling can't be right because your king is stuck. I'm just going to go here, protect this pawn, and then bring my rook in, and there's nothing he can do about it. You could also push the pawns. It makes no difference. He can't escape here, so this is still a thing. But I'm going to pin the rook for funsies. Then I'm going to give this check, which forces him back in the other direction, followed by my rook, followed by checkmate. So let me thank him because he said some speed run, because I guess I'm slow. So I'm going to thank him because kill him with kindness. Good game. When I got to like 230, I was hesitating. I couldn't really think, but I think like, yeah, this move is super interesting because it actually stops this because of a weird g5. g5 still looks bad, but I don't know the immediate lines and refutation, so I played just normal stuff. f4. He lets me play f5. I'm always happy in a position like this. And everything's kind of normal, kind of fine. I don't think this knight belongs here. I think the one move threat was a waste of time. And then I think this check is a waste of time, especially when you go back to your starting square. And like, I just think my position's really good. If you turn on the board here, wow. Okay, so it says basically even with a slight edge for black if he plays the move he played. 10 times out of 10, I would want to be white here. These guys are out of their minds. I mean, you can play you can play f6 here, like I was saying. That looks super strong, but I wanted to castle first. Wow, -3. I just fell for a tactic here. What is the tactic? Are my pieces trapped? Oh. He kicks my knight. I have to go here. He can kick my bishop, which would then have to go here. Then he can kick my knight, which is stuck. And even if it could move, he could then trap my bishop. Okay, so that's kind of like the archangel trap. Oh well, didn't even consider that. Yeah, didn't consider that because I think I was focused on f6. And I assumed from before that he wanted to castle queenside, so I wasn't even considering pawn pushes on that side because they're bad if you're going to castle that way. Okay. Yeah, so he took, which is what I expected, and now I'm just better. Very interesting. And then he blunders this pawn, which sacks his whole position. Yeah, so here, okay, so knight e7 is a move, but like, now what? Okay, so they do want to set up the discoveries with the queen. Oh no. The discoveries with the, oh no, the discoveries with the queen. Move a rook over, which kind of doesn't make sense with the pawn here, but I had a minute 40 and I wasn't sure what to do. Okay, so now I went here. With that, like I mentioned before, it blunders the pawn. Going here makes more sense because then the pawn's not hanging because of discoveries. But I realized that here, so I corrected my mistake. Then I moved my knight back, which is funny that it wanted me to go to e7 and back, and that was the same way I thought. I moved to e7 and I'm like, maybe I should move back, and for some reason you were supposed to do that. I'm not really sure why. Okay, so now they want me to attack immediately. That makes sense. I figured it was going to get broken down by him, but either way. Yeah, I did it next move. It took me 2 moves instead of 1 because I moved it 1 square at a time. And now it's +5, obviously. Castling is terrible. I'm just still kind of surprised that this position, I think it's only better for black, they're saying, because my knight is technically kind of trapped. Like, this is just a bad square, so it doesn't matter. So this pawn here that I was planning on taking, I ended up going to queen f4, not taking it, and that restricts my knight retreat, which is the one you want, knight e3. Yeah, so I didn't consider this pawn push. So in light of all of that, in light of my knight about to get trapped, I should do what I mentioned in the game and start with h3. That will force his knight to make a move first. But even then, that's a similar position. If it's his turn and he goes here, I see. I didn't include queen f4, and queen f4 removes that square from the knight. That's the difference. So that my position is super strong. I just don't want my queen on f4. That's the thing. I see. Very weird because it hits the knight. Counterintuitive too. But it takes away the only good square that I have for my knight. And this square is a great square. Defended by a pawn and shielded by a pawn from the side and front. Amazing, amazing square for the knight. Doesn't have forward jumps, but just like visually, it's super good. Okay, cool game. Well, we win another one. We are almost at episode 100, which will be the end of this speedrun. We will start a new one from episode 1. So stay tuned. Submit your rapid games. Good luck with everything. Goodbye.